The New York Knicks have a 2-1 series lead in the NBA Finals. After game one, it looked good. It was a back and forth affair. They were down by one with like 2 minutes to go, hung on,
Mm.
ended the game on 11-0 run. Game two was a lot sketchier in the fourth quarter.
For
With
sure.
Spurs and Wembanyama having a chance to win it at the buzzer. He missed somehow because it was a pretty open jumper, but he missed. Knicks went up 2-0. And then obviously game three didn't end the way they were hoping. Couple of clutch shots from the Spurs in the fourth quarter was able to seal it, especially Stephon Castle, who was terrific, along with Wembanyama. And now game four, excuse me, is tomorrow night, and let's hear it.
Yeah. So, first of all, it's really hard to talk about this series without talking about the officiating. And don't worry, we will talk about it. But first, I want to talk about the things we can control, how the Knicks have looked in the series so far. Obviously, being up 2-1 is great. If you told me we were going to be up 2-1 before the series started, I would have been very happy. Obviously, you would have assumed if that were the case, they win game three and probably lost in San Antonio. But nonetheless, a 2-1 lead is a 2-1 lead. So everyone getting all apocalyptic needs to calm down. They're still winning the series. They still have a chance to go up 3-1 at Madison Square Garden tomorrow. The Knicks are just fine. There are absolutely some things they can work on. I think they could start the games better. They've been down double digits in all three first quarters, I believe, at some point.
Yeah, I believe
And, at times I think they're a little too scared to go right at Victor Wembanyama. Carl Anthony Towns really, and OG Anunoby a couple times, the only players who seem to be willing to go at him or shoot over him.
hmm
On the good side, I think for the most part, they've defended Victor Wembanyama as well as you possibly can, make life difficult for him. Obviously, he's going to have his moments. He's arguably the best player on earth. I think they've done a pretty good job on most of the Spurs players, quite frankly. I think they've been great defensively. They've matched the Spurs' physicality, which is huge. And they have been able to just gut out a couple road wins in the clutch, and that's why the Knicks are up 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, we expected this team to be pretty clutch when you have a former clutch player of the year in Jalen Brunson, and
Absolutely.
Josh Hart has had its moments, and Carl Anthony Towns against Detroit last season in the first round. So a lot of these guys have had their moments in the clutch, so it's not exactly surprising that they were able to, churn out two tough, gritty road wins. Unfortunate. They could have went up 3 games to nothing. This would be maybe not a very different episode, but it'd be a little bit of a different episode. And it'd be maybe,
A little bit gloomy, you might say.
yes, maybe a premature celebration almost being up 3 games to none, seeing as nobody is ever in the NBA. That is, no one has ever come back down 3 games to nothing. Although what we've said is it will happen eventually. So
Absolutely will.
my worry is that, right, it's happened in hockey, it's happened in baseball. So my worry is that it would be the Knicks in the NBA Finals. So
Seriously.
maybe they're a little bit happy that they didn't go up 3-0. But one thing you mentioned Carl Anthony Towns going at Wembanyama. There's been a couple times I've noticed in the past couple games where he has maybe Castle on him, even Fox or
Mm-hmm.
Vassell, and he's just not going at him. He's looking to pass. It's like you have guys that are far smaller than you and are not as physical as you, and they just can't defend you. And I feel like he's just not taking advantage of that. I actually saw a stat earlier. He doesn't have a single fourth quarter point in this series. And he's played 29 minutes in 3 games. Now, has he game one and game two, I thought he was fantastic. I thought he
Absolutely.
did Wembanyama very well, and I thought he was scoring well. I thought he was very good. Game three, 11 points, 8 rebounds, only took like 10 shots. Not great. And I think that was really the game where I was like, dude, you have Castle on you, who's like 7 inches smaller than you. Just go at him. Or it was Vassell or Fox or even like Carter Bryant a couple times. So it's like I love that he's passing and I love that he's become like a point forward, almost. But he needs to take advantage of some of those matchups that favor him.
Yeah, I agree. I think Cat has looked a little timid at times. He's almost more aggressive when Wemby's out in the perimeter on him, and he doesn't want to necessarily go at Wemby when he's set in the paint, as most of the team doesn't want to, which,
Yeah, I can't
reasonable.
blame him.
7-5 guy, defensive player of the year. I still think Karl Anthony Towns has been the best Nick this series, despite his worst performance of the series so far in game three. But, hard to match what he did in games 1 and 2.
Mhm.
And yeah, I do think he needs to realize that and be a little bit more aggressive. But, you know, I think you can forgive it. I think, like you said, those two home games for San Antonio could have gone either way. I think either team could be up 3-0 in this series. So again, in a series of the games have been so close, and in my opinion, either team could be up 3-0. You're happy being up 2-1. You could easily be
Absolutely.
down 2-1 if Wemby hits a 15-footer. You could be down 3-0. Obviously, you could be up 3-0, but you're happy with 2-1 based on how the games have gone, and especially how the series has been officiated. Because my God, I'm losing my mind with some of these calls, or really lack thereof. I'll just start off with one example. Wemby smacking Jalen Brunson in the face right in front of an official, and there's no flagrant, no
Nope,
call at all.
nothing. Or how about Alvarado? It was game two. Alvarado goes to box out Wembanyama. Clearly, he didn't like it, and he just chucks him. He just throws him across the court, and nobody says anything. Nobody, you wouldn't even have known it happened. No, I don't think most people didn't even know it happened until like they saw a replay on Twitter or social media. It's like, how are you missing that? It was another one right on that one was right under the basket. It's
It's
like
right in front of him.
it's right in
And then
front
you
of
have the ones they review. There was the one where Stephon Castle just ran over Jalen Brunson, and their justification for a no flagrant on that was that like there wasn't the follow through. But my thing is like it was so unnecessary. He saw Jalen Brunson. He had like 15 feet to try to navigate around him and chose to run through his chest.
you.
So,
Well,
I think the most surprising thing of this series, if you told me this at the start of the series, is not that the Knicks would be up 2-1. I'd be more surprised if you told me that I was going to start to sympathize with Oklahoma City Thunder fans because they've been screaming this the entire series that Wemby is a dirty player and the Spurs are a dirty team and they're the victims. And they're kind of right.
they are right. They
Starting
are.
to believe them. I mean, there are multiple plays in that series you could point to that were extremely dirty from the Spurs. And, I'll admit I'm a part of this, but everyone just kind of turned a blind eye because it was against the Thunder and they're the
Absolutely.
most hated team in the NBA. But I mean, Shea took a few cheap shots. Wemby again, probably could have got called for a couple flagrants in that series. So,
Yeah.
I think the refs just ignoring the blatant dirty plays from the Spurs doesn't help the Knicks. And then the free throw disparity in general, the time each team is spending in the bonus is just, the Spurs pride themselves. They're the self proclaimed most physical defense in the NBA and
Hmm.
never foul, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like we would say with the Thunder. The Thunder are the best defense in the NBA because they get away with it. And it seems like that is with San Antonio. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't watch a lot of San Antonio basketball this year. I watched a decent amount of games, but you don't realize it until you're in a series against them and you've watched them three nights in a row. But even going back to like the Spurs, being dirty or whatever, it's not even just against Oklahoma City. Wembanyama got thrown out of a game against Minnesota because he stared Naz Reid down and then just elbowed him in the neck. It wasn't even
Right
like
in the net.
he didn't even try to make it look like an accident. He turned, saw Naz Reid, and went bam right into his neck. How is it even a conversation if this guy is dirty or not? Of course he's dirty. He goes and tells his teammates, Mason Plumlee and Bismack Biyombo, when they're checking into the game in a blowout,
Right.
to go after them and to hit
Yeah.
them. Are you kidding me? How
No,
is
it's
how is this even a debate? How is it even a discussion? This guy is dirty. He's a piece of crap. It's that simple.
it
He's
really is.
garbage. And it's not just because the Knicks are playing him. He's garbage. And that's what he will. That's what he is. And that's what he will be. And that's what will follow him. He may become the best player in the NBA. He might already be the best player in the NBA. But people are going to know him for his immense talent, sure. But they're also going to know him as the guy who elbowed a guy in the neck because he didn't like that he got fouled.
yeah, he just and it's funny you should mention the flagrant two because I learned this the other day that a flagrant two in the playoffs is worth 2 points and a flagrant one is one. And four gives you a suspension, which explains why they've stopped calling anything on him because
Right.
I mean, again, like you said, he's a piece of crap. He could have been suspended twice already by now. He
Easily.
could have got 4 points multiple times over. And as of now, the Brunson play is still pending review. They're way over the deadline for these usually. And my theory is that they know that that's a textbook flagrant two, but they can't give it to him. If
Yes.
they gave him a flagrant two in game, it's an ejection and a suspension from game four. The series is over on the spot.
Yep.
That's it. And the Knicks are NBA champions if they have the balls to make that call. They obviously don't and won't. But so it's just stuff like that that they're turning a blind eye to. And it makes you wonder, we've hypothesized, offline. The NBA can't, in my opinion, be like scripted as in like the Spurs have to win and it has to be this way.
Right.
Because like in my opinion, real time, the refs don't necessarily know, oh, this is the call that's going to change the game. Like
Right.
even the flagrant, they're probably not thinking, oh, that would end the series right there. Like, you're probably not thinking that in real time. But surely, I'm starting to think, how can you watch how these playoffs have gone and not think the NBA doesn't at least tell the refs to give more preferable calls, give the benefit of the doubt to the team that's losing the series? Because this isn't the only series I've noticed this. I think the Spurs Thunder series, you had game one and game seven, pretty well officiated games when the
Yeah.
series was tied. Game five, I don't think many people had problems with those games. And it was the games where a team was losing that everyone lost their minds over. Same with Cavs Pistons, where the Pistons go up 2-0. And then the Cavs suddenly are shooting 35 free throws a game, go up 3-2. You get to game six, the Pistons blow them out, and JB Bickerstaff was like, finally, they let us be physical. And everyone thought it was, well, they finally let you kill them.
Yeah.
But it's only when they're losing this happens. So it makes you wonder, maybe they don't care who wins the series, but they certainly care about extending the series and making it more competitive. Because how can you watch how these playoffs have been officiated and not think otherwise?
Right. And I mean, obviously, if you're Adam Silver and you're the NBA league office, you want it to go to 7 games because it's more eyes on the product, it's more revenue, it's more basketball. And so how could you not want that? So like you're saying, I don't think Adam Silver is telling the refs before every game, you have to let San Antonio win this game. I don't even know if they're saying you have to call every 50-50 call, one way or the other. I just think maybe secretly or deep down there is, a hope in within the NBA league office that, oh, please let this go to 7 games. Please let this stretch out. And maybe that affects the refs somehow that they know it. They know the NBA wants a series to go longer. Heck, maybe they want the series to go longer. I don't, who knows? Maybe these refs would want to keep refing. I don't know. Or they want to keep watching basketball. So it could even be something like that. But when you watch how lopsided the free throw disparity has been, and it's not like San Antonio is the only team driving to the cup, and that's why they're getting fouls.
Knicks have
The
had
Knicks,
more drives this series than the
exactly.
Spurs.
The Knicks are out driving them. That I was just about to say that they're driving more to the lane. So it doesn't. It just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. There are some times where you can watch a game, or you see the box score and you go, wow, gee, San Antonio had 35 free throws and the Knicks had 10 or whatever. And then you find out later, well, that's because the Knicks just chucked up 73,
Yeah,
whatever it is. But what's going on right now, there is no
yeah,
way to there's no way to give the refs any benefit of the doubt because
yeah.
it's been terrible.
Yeah, it's funny. I will agree with you that, again, it's hard to say like, oh, the Spurs are down 2-1. They have to win this game without making it too obvious. Like if that were the case in game two, the Knicks would have had to challenge that OG Anunoby call like they did, and they would have had to not overturn it. Like they'll never make it that
Right.
obvious. But I'm going
Right.
to push back. I think there's every possibility that Adam Silver calls the refs into a room and tells them like, hey, give them the 50-50s, give them the benefit of the doubt with this contact, let more stuff go with them and less of the Knicks. And I say that because we've seen the NBA openly take other measures under the guise of making the NBA more competitive. They've made it hard to maintain success with the second apron and stuff because fans don't want to watch the same teams winning over and over again. They basically made it to where a Golden State Warriors-esque team was impossible. They made it to where you can't have multiple top five picks in a row because if you're like the Spurs and end up with three studs in a row, you might be a super team. So they've openly taken other measures under the guise of making the league more competitive and extending series and making the playoffs more competitive and have more parity. So why wouldn't they secretly do it with the refs? I think there's every chance that's the case.
Yeah, but you don't think a ref would come out and even a retired ref would come out and say, "Yeah, when I was refing in the '80s, when Stern was the commissioner, yeah, Stern used to come into the locker room and tell us, hey, you don't give the 50-50 calls to the other guys, we're going to be pissed,' or whatever it is." I think it would find a way to get out and into the public or leak or if there was an official that had a grudge against the NBA for whatever reason or whatever it may be. I think you would have found that out. So that's why I don't think it might not be as open as that where he's
True.
saying, listen, 50-50s have to go this way because I think that's just such an easy way for the public to find out and then for your whole league to just lose all credibility. And it become like the WWE where you're watching something scripted. And then that changes that changes the entire way people watch the sport then if they think it's scripted or they know it's scripted then or at least they know that the losing team is getting the benefit of the doubt with the call. So I don't think it can be as open as that. But I think there definitely could be maybe the referees feel that pressure. Maybe they're not told that, but they know, maybe we should give Spurs some of the calls.
That's true.
Maybe,
It could also be like they're told more subtly because, like you said, you have that people in charge of the refs releasing like the last 2 minutes report. So if they call them into a room and they're like, "Hey, you ref this game incorrectly, change this," and it's
yeah,
always in favor of the losing team, you could do it like that, and they could feel the pressure
true.
that way, and it's less obvious. There's a lot of ways to go about it, but nonetheless, I think it's becoming more and more clear that the team losing the series gets the benefit of the doubt. And the series gets refed completely differently from game to game, depending on where the series is at. And I think this year's the most egregious. We've seen so many examples of it. Again, I mean, we'll talk about the Knicks Spurs series, but I think game one was pretty well refed by
Hmm.
Scott Foster. And then game two
Yeah, I
was
thought it was all right.
joke. Game three was arguably worse. And again, you can't force it to happen. The Spurs have to make their shots and win the game.
Right.
And that's why you could say it's not completely scripted because, if the team you're favoring sucks, then there's not much you can really do without making it
That's
super
true.
obvious.
That's true.
But it was clear they were benefiting the Spurs more than the Knicks. And I'm
Absolutely.
not just saying that as a Knicks fan, because we scroll through NBA Twitter and fans of all 30 teams, including the Spurs, were
Yeah.
saying stuff like this
Yeah.
for both games. And, based on my hypothesis, I expect to see that again in game 4 and game 5 if the Knicks win. If the Knicks lose, I think game 5 will magically watch. It'll magically be a beautifully ref basketball game.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I would like to get into game four though, and your thoughts on that and the rest of the series. So we both okay, so you said Knicks in six.
I
I
did.
said Knicks in seven. After the first three games, do we want to change our predictions? Starting with me.
I personally feel great about my prediction. Obviously, for my prediction to really come to fruition, game 4 is the game the Knicks absolutely have to win.
Yes.
I honestly think to win the series, it's a game they have to have anyway. Obviously, it's not over if
No.
it's 2-2. Like, again, this team has been so good. We don't need to be apocalyptic, but, you know, this is a game you have to have. You want to take firm control of the series. You're never going to sweep everybody. This is borderline impossible, but going up 3-1 is an unbelievable opportunity that this team, they just cannot pass up off the back of a loss. So, my opinion, this is a game they have to have. For my Knicks in six predictions, absolutely a game they have to have. And I'm
Mhm.
going to stick with it. I think the Knicks will win tomorrow and win the series in 6, maybe even 5.
Yeah, well, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I was gonna say I think they win tomorrow night. There's no way the New York Knicks are losing both games at the Garden. I just can't I can't see it. They win tomorrow. The Spurs, they're young. They're still somewhat inexperienced compared to the Knicks at least. And I think the fact that they're up against elimination, I listen, I know they won they did it, they came back against the Thunder, but I think game five goes to the Knicks, and I think it's going to be the Knicks in five. I said Knicks in seven. I thought it was going to
Knicks in
be. Listen,
5.
it's
Oh, big
it's been
switch.
it's been a very competitive series. It has. It's about what
Absolutely.
I expected, but I did not expect the Knicks to take the first two on the road.
I don't
And
think anybody did.
with that, all they have to do, taking one at the Garden, I think you go up 3-1, and I think. And I know it's not what they've done in the past, right? Like I just mentioned against the Thunder, but I think this Spur, I think they crumble, and I think the Knicks take advantage of it, and I think they take it in five.
Yeah, they definitely could. And again, I know people have a hard time believing that off the back of a loss, but I think it would be dishonest to say no matter what the Knicks were saying in the media and the coaches, the vibes were a little bit weird in game 3, and it was a distraction with the attendance of President Trump and all the media questions the Knicks were getting about it. You can try to flush it. I'm sure they did. I don't think they did a bad job, but at some point, it's like almost impossible to ignore distractions like that. So I think they'll be even more focused for game 4 with all that in their rearview mirror. They didn't come out looking awful. There were some things they can clean up, movement off the ball, honestly, just hitting a few more shots,
Turnovers.
turnovers, right? But, I think it would be dishonest to say that wasn't a factor at all, a distraction for the Knicks. At some point, there's things that are impossible to ignore. And the entire country talking about that is, about as close to something it's impossible to ignore as you can get. So, I think everything's back to normal for game 4. They'll be completely locked in. I have no doubt that their mental state is where it needs to be. And I think Knicks in 5 is a possibility, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stick with 6. I'll give the Spurs a little bit of respect.
All right. You're Knicks in six. You're sticking with that. I'm going with Knicks in five.
Firm at Knicks in 6.
And we will see what happens. We'll see you next time. We're the Big Apple Blabbermouths. Tune in for our next. I'm sure no matter what happens, we will definitely be doing a video after the series concludes for sure, no matter what.
Definitely.
Whether the Knicks do win in five or six or seven, or if the Spurs win. Um, but yeah, tune in next time. Thanks for watching and have a good night.